What's going to be? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast bringing the best emerging rock and metal bands and artists to the best rock and metal fans in the world for them to say, hey, I got in that band before they got big. Oh, yeah. And also bringing the best artists and the best bands in rock and metal today. And they're like, I never knew about those. Those are funny. Welcome to the show once again, guys. This is incredible. We have a brand new band on the podcast for their first podcast ever after finding out about them from the State of the Scene post about them. Band is called Cloudsight out of Finland, and you're going to enjoy this one, especially for all you people that love music that is simple, but also very, very much in-depth and composed beautifully. Before we go into that, though, I want to thank our sponsor, which is Phoenix Fitness. So, yes, as we are getting into concert season once again, you know, that March season, and especially here in the United States after a long winter, you want to make sure that when you're going to those shows that you are ready to be in that crowd, go nuts, or if you're like me, jump in that mosh pit, start moshing for the first band, and do not leave that pit for any reason until the last band is going. So you know what it's the last band ends, I should say. So you know what you got to be? You got to be mosh pit fit, yeah. So how do you get mosh pit fit? You're going to go to the gym, you're going to work out, you're going to hit the weights, you're going to do all your cardio, you're going to make sure that you are becoming the strongest person to achieve that fitness goal of being mosh pit fit or achieving whatever fitness goal you might have. But if you want to make sure you're doing that right, you have to prepare and recover right to make sure you're able to continue it, and that's where Phoenix Fitness comes in. They have many different supplements and products to get mosh pit fit, including different pre-workouts, both stim and stim free. I use the stim free stuff because, let's be honest, I got more than enough energy than I have or I need already. A lot of caffeine ain't going to be the best thing in that realm, so I don't need it. They have different BCAA recovery compounds to help you recover and, absorb the nutrients in your muscles after workout. Different creatine, different types of protein, plant-based protein, collagen protein, or their whey protein, which I use. I prefer the chocolate malt flavor. That's just my style. Different multivitamins, literally anything, anything you might need to achieve your fitness goals, Phoenix Fitness has for you. So our listeners get 20% off using the code CPP20 at fnxfit.com. Links in the description of the podcast. Thank you, Phoenix Fitness. Now, time for our feature presentation with Cloudsight. Are you ready? Let's go! Yeah! Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. The band we have on the podcast today is the perfect encapsulation of one of those great emerging bands in rock and metal that we love to bring on the podcast, bring to you guys, and talk all about. I found out about them when their first song they've ever released as a full band, Pure Heaven, featuring both Victor Borba and Rory Rodriguez, dropped in January, and the podcast, The State of the Scene, who you guys all know and love, posted this on their Twitter, on their Instagram. I saw it, I heard it, I'm like, oh my God. I saw more people post about it. I'm like, I have to have these guys on for a podcast. And bing, bang, boom, here they are today. So please welcome, all the way from Finland, we have Levi, Emil, Lassi, and Vaino from the band Cloudsight on the podcast. So gentlemen, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you for having us.
Thank you for being on, guys. How has everything been going for you guys? As you know, we're about 1 month into 2023. You guys dropped your first song as an original song. How has everything been going on your end? I mean, it has to be good, right?
Yeah, it's weird. It's just really weird to have music out. Actually, it's been this weird limbo state of mind, kind of these 2 weeks. I haven't been able to do anything but just lay down and buy a phone and just kind of feel this. I don't know. It's weird, but good, really good.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I could say it's been like a roller coaster of different emotions, like relief, happiness, some anxiety, even some sleepless nights. So yeah, definitely some feelings which I haven't experienced before, but of course in a positive way, because we've been waiting for this moment so long, and now once it's finally happened, it's incredible, definitely.
Yeah. It's finally seeing all the hard work bear fruit for us, because we've all been working so hard towards this first release, and now that it's finally come out, it's such a relief, but like at the same time it's kind of like scary. But I mean, yeah.
I'll say I totally understand that with it being scary, with it being your first release ever, especially putting out in the world. You never know exactly what the reaction's going to be. You never know exactly what the initial discoverability is going to be, because how many bands put out their first ever song and it comes out, like it maybe go on Spotify, might go on YouTube, but really only the band's like close family and friends ever get to actually look at it for that first period of time, just because no one really knows who they are. No one knows their name. No one really even knows they exist, or no one has, they don't have like the ability to be discovered enough to the point where, maybe when you look at the title of their song, when you look at just everything that goes into it, like those key words that everyone uses for those algorithms just don't pop up, where you guys had a little bit differently, where, I mean, your song gets released and a couple of major, major publications in the alternative rock metal music scene start picking up on it. I mean, I'm not going to lie, a good reason for that has to be the features as well, because of course anyone sees Rory Rodriguez with how big Dayseeker is, especially at the end of 2022 going into 2023. It's definitely garner some attention when people see that Rory's going to be on a song. It's like, ooh, what's this? But I understand where the anxiety comes in, because you never know exactly what the reaction's going to be. And when you start getting people to look at it and hear it, what are they thinking? What's their thoughts on it? And how is this going to spread? Is it going to spread for the positive or spread for the negative? So I understand where the anxiety is coming from.
Like we are confident, but like you can never really know, because we've been like keeping that inside of us like so long. So like you don't know. And like the fact that like State of the Scene shared that, like I've been following them for a couple of years too, and like someone just like shared the song to them and they like that, and I was like blown away that they shared that, where you also like knew us now. So that's incredible.
So yeah, I picked up on you guys literally from that moment. But before really going into the song and the whole entire thing, I know you guys formed in 2017 and now it's 2023 and your first original song has released. So I got to let's take a look back at the history of Cloudsight so that everyone who doesn't know you guys can really understand the backstory behind you getting into it. So when you guys formed in 2017 until now, I mean, what was Cloudsight like? What were you guys doing, and why did it take, almost 6 years to release your first song? I'm just curious about the story. I want to know what happened.
Yeah, that's a quite long story, and I could say maybe most of the time, which has been really keeping us like not releasing anything, is simply that we just could not find a singer. And I could say that if we had a singer from the year 2017, we would have been putting already some stuff out. And then maybe it was, I could say it's 1.5 years ago, we came up with this wild idea of releasing the first singles with featured tracks. I mean, featured singers, which ended up really cool. And definitely could say at this point that this is not gonna be the last one. So yeah.
That's one big reason why we've been like, if you're gonna try to actually have a career out of something like this, vocalists need to be the one, and we didn't find the one. And this is like, I think we kind of stopped searching in 2020 when TikTok like came a thing, so we haven't like searched vocalists from there. But like this like pre-TikTok era, we couldn't find one anywhere near, or like just the right one just wasn't there. Another reason is that like we have no experience like producing or writing, so that's all like there's billion first times that has come into this, and less learning, trying to like self-learn and stress things out that like, and obviously the goal has been like to release quality stuff straight from the beginning. So it's been a long journey for sure.
All right, now that makes sense, especially because, I mean, think about it from any band from a rock and metal perspective. for the majority of the time, it's that frontman, that vocalist. It's because they're they're like they're the focal point of the attention of the audience when they're on stage. That's what people necessarily look at when it comes to bands that have, changed lead singers over time, whether it's, they were forced to, maybe the original lead singer left, maybe something happened. Very rarely does it work out where another singer will come in and, the styles fit and they have just as much success as they did with the original. There's a discoverability point there, and I think there's a more a point for people to latch onto, because when you hear a human voice singing, it's a lot easier to connect that because we're humans. We have that voice at the same time than it is to connect with a guitar tone or a guitar riff or a bass line or a drum pattern. So it makes a lot of sense, but when it comes to your guys' sound, was it just something where the vocalist that you were looking for and the vocalist that you guys were just like coming up to, just seeing if they would work out, that didn't work out? Was it something where their sound didn't necessarily fit what you guys were driving towards? Or was it something where their style just didn't necessarily mesh well with your guys' personalities and what you want to do collectively as a whole with the band before, 2020, the whole Tik Tok thing came out where you had a little bit more of a discoverability aspect to try and find a potential vocalist?
It's all of that. It's all of that. Like when something doesn't just click, you just know that it's not going to click in 5 years. And even if the voice is right, and so just it's a hard quest to find someone who that is going to help you actually build the career of your dreams. So those people exist, but we just we've been waiting, and in 2020 we kind of got sick of waiting and just tried to vision this new approach that would also fit in long-term vision. And that's where we are at now.
Yeah, and I could also say that some of those singers who sent some demos for us, I could say that the visions of ours, they didn't quite match, because what we were looking for was really personal voice with a cool vision, really trying to create something which no one has done before, having a really unique way of mixing some pop-ish stuff into this heavy metal stuff which we really want to create. So personally for me, I found this quite challenging to really turn the rock and find the right guy or lady for this role. So
yeah, and also none of us have any experience in vocal melody writing before, so that's also one thing you would want the other person to have. I think that's kind of different now. I think we are much more capable of writing vocal melodies and lyrics and stuff like that. So it's definitely different now than before. But that used to be another thing that we would have wanted from a vocalist. So not an easy task, and we didn't success in it. So, but now we're here. Now we are here.
Yeah, now you're here. And when it comes down to it, I mean, you guys had a vision of what you wanted to do. You guys had a drive on what you want to do. And when it comes to bringing in someone as a vocalist or trying to find someone a vocalist from an outside perspective, the thing you always have to remember too, and this goes for any band when it comes to trying to add a member, maybe try and find someone new, it all comes down to how are they going to work within your style as well? How are they going to work as a collective unit of the band? Of course, everyone's going to have different influences. Everyone's going to have a different writing capability, which is okay. I mean, I've seen many bands work with many different capacities, many different influences from each member together. But it all depends upon how that chemistry is going to work together with each other, how each member of the band is going to work alongside each other, what the collaboration style is going to be like. And in the end, you have to remember this: when it comes to being a band, if you want to go the distance, if you want to be that successful band, you're going to be essentially, living with these people. You're going to be around these people consistently. It's best to be around people that you actually get along with, you have a good amount of chemistry with, and you have a great relationship with, than someone that you don't, because then there's a lot of friction that happens. And then a lot of potential bad things can happen where, band members don't like each other, the bands break up, or, you have bands split up and people go their separate ways. And then you have situations like what kind of happened with Guns N' Roses, where now you go and see Guns N' Roses, the only original member is Axl Rose up front.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Slash is there now, right? but I don't know if Slash original member.
No, I think Slash is an original member, but I know
Yeah,
he's
but
got
it's been changed a lot like in recent years. But like yeah, of course. First of all, me, Emil, and Vaina, we lived together like 2 years.
1.5 years. Little bit less than 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, like I've known these guys forever, so like we are friends, like really close friends already, like before this band thing. So like that's obviously when you're going to have like kind of an outsider. It's it needs to fit the chemistry, of course.
And another thing, kind of thinking about this too, especially you guys being from Finland and having the discoverability, especially with TikTok, to potentially find another vocalist and find someone that might click and collaborate with your style. It's not easy if all of a sudden, say you find someone who has a great voice that sounds personal and fits your style, but say they live in Australia or they live all the way over here in the United States. So when it comes to writing music and collaborating, creating, and then playing live shows and delivering that experience to people, I mean, it's not going to work out if you've got a vocalist that lives halfway across the world.
Well, that's the thing. Like after we are almost like we've been searching all over like Europe, and then we found Victor Porba in like 2019, and I actually like emailed him that if he would have any interest in becoming the vocalist of this no-name band with these shitty demos, and like obviously no, but like the big reason was like because we wanted to be a touring band also, so that wouldn't work. And like music is, I think it still is like more of a hobby than a career for him. But like it's kind of funny thing that we actually asked him in 2019, I think, and now it's kind of become this full circle to this song, so that's cool.
That is pretty funny, honestly, because now that makes a little bit more sense why Victor's also included on this song, and can kind of be like the de facto like first vocalist that Cloudsight really ever had, even though in the end it was he got asked because we just decided to do it, and it didn't work out. But our first song ever, he's the main vocalist on the whole entire thing. So
he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing, and become a great friend. Like he's just amazing dude. I love him a lot.
When it comes to a vocalist, though, have you guys ever come close to getting someone that almost like getting close to picking one from your ear? Because again, if you guys want to be a touring band, it's got to be something where you find a vocalist that can, like, not, I would say live alongside you guys. Doesn't have to exactly live with you like you three guys are together, but live close to you, live alongside you, so that you can have that in-person collaboration on songwriting. You can have that similarity and collaboration when it comes to recording, and when it comes to live shows, practicing, putting together a whole entire performance. It's not going to work out if you guys are all there and then your vocalist is like in mainland Europe, or again over in Australia, over in the US. It's just not going to work like that. Did you guys ever come close to somebody?
We had like a vocalist for like few months, week, and like he was really good, but just didn't click in the way for that long-term vision. Just didn't feel like right, so we just let him go and continued searching. And like right now at this moment we have one candidate that we are like trying to see if that person fits. Like I don't want to say anything if it doesn't work.
yeah, nothing's confirmed yet, but yeah, hopefully we'll be able to find a suitable vocalist in the future. It's been
and also like coming. I think that like it would be clever to like maybe not have like a permanent vocalist, but maybe like for a permanent vocalist for a few projects and like see the live stuff. And like I don't know, we kind of like the freedom of just like getting to do whatever the fuck we want, like even if it's instrumental, even if like sometimes we want to have a like female vocalist, sometimes male vocalist, sometimes both. Like have this freedom. So yeah,
that actually is the perfect like segue into an idea that I was going to bring up a little bit later, but I want to bring it up now because we're already kind of talking about listening to Pure Heaven before we go into the song as well, I mean, hearing Victor and Rory on that and just hearing just what your guys' capability as songwriters, as composers, as just anything when it comes to putting together a fantastic sound and seeing what Victor and Rory did with it. I was going to actually ask this question is there a plan even for a vocalist, or is a plan potentially, like you said, to have that freedom and, you know, basically bring in different vocalists and bring in different sounds and perspectives so that you can not only have something completely and utterly unique, but you can also work to find a voice that's going to be impactful and more impactful than, you know, just one vocalist might be for each and every song. So say you're writing something that is very emotional but needs that higher pitched voice. You might go with a male vocalist that has a high voice. You might go with a female vocalist to really pull that out there and get a different perspective. If you write something that's super duper heavy and super duper low, and all of a sudden it's like, well, we need a vocalist to take care of this. All right, you know what? How cool would it be to have Corpse Grinder as our own as a vocalist for a song for us? Like, has that idea crossed your mind when it comes to potentially just having a rotating stock of vocalists, just like kind of what you did with Pure Heaven, where it's like, okay, we're the band and the vocalists are going to come in, it's like, and bring this new perspective on every single song. Has that thought ever crossed your mind?
I mean, yeah. First thing is, like, when it comes to like performing live in the future, it's obviously hard to find someone who is like capable of doing everything. But like, there are definitely like vocalists in Finland that are capable of doing like one thing. So like, we could like maybe ask some vocalists to come perform these certain parts in live. And I don't know how it's gonna actually go, but like, every possibility is out there, definitely. But like, as I said, like, it's not exactly like a plan to have different vocalists for every song, but at least like this one project with Pure Heaven is the first song in, it's gonna be all features. So yeah. Everything's possible.
We'll have to see if it's a suitable format for us in the future. But maybe, I guess we're like right at the moment, we're like looking more into the possibility of having like a permanent member, but especially as Lassi said, when you have to like play gigs, it's like you gotta have somebody who can like perform most of the songs. Definitely. Like
at some point definitely we would need a permanent singer, but I could say that especially in the beginning, it's really fun to try different stuff with different vocalists. So it's gonna be really versatile portfolio for that first releases.
Yeah. Also, like, having a future costs money, so it's not exactly possible maybe to do that forever. And like,
at least independently.
At least independently, as we are trying to do this very independently, which is one reason why it takes so long to come to this far. But like, also because we don't have the experience in vocal melody writing, like having like Victor and Rory like do some, like, it kind of shows us what is possible to do in our instrumentation that like goes out of the box of our minds, and we can kind of learn from that also, which is kind of like clever to have these professional singers to actually write the stuff at first before like we're going full into it ourselves.
All right, there's a couple of things to really go into there. And when I first thought about that question, I thought about the idea of you guys just being, you four guys then always bringing in like a different vocalist. I saw the possibility there, but I also understood, you know, the two main concerns is, one, when it comes to doing this in a live setting, how does that play into it? Because you're not going to find, if you have, you know, say you have like a female vocalist and a male vocalist, and you have someone like Corpse Grinder going on the whole entire song, you're not going to find someone who can hit every single range. So it makes live setting a much more difficult. On top of that as well, especially as an independent band, it does make sense where, you know, this is going to cost some money, and how long can this viably continue on? On top of that, can it continue on for the future, even if you do hit it big and make it with a couple of those songs? It does make a lot of sense, but just the mindset around there as well when it comes to doing this, especially from the start, because you're looking at this, and when it comes to the instrumental side, the composition side of these songs, you guys know exactly what you're doing. You have your vision, you have your chemistry behind there to really create this whole entire thing. And having a couple of have a couple of professional vocalists, some that are in some bands that are absolutely blowing up right now. Again, Rory from Dayseeker, you get to see potentially how his mind would work on a song like this when it came to come up with a vocal pattern, a tone, how to make sure certain things hit in the way that he would see it. Same thing with Victor as well. How do you want these particular spots? How do you want the chorus? How do you want the verses to hit with a certain vibrato, with a certain power, with a certain pace? What's the songwriting process look like? And if you do that a couple of times, you get to see exactly when it comes to a songwriter, when it comes to a style, when it comes to a sound, what you're looking for that absolutely encapsulates the goal and the mindset you have around everything that is Cloudsight. So it gives you a more clear picture of what you guys want to go for in terms of finding a vocalist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, but like definitely gives us the opportunity to to kind of explore our sound as of right now and see what would be the most like fitting style in regards to our like instrumentation and stuff like that. So yeah. It's good.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like we kind of like also like exploring different sounds. Like I think I could say like the next, I don't know, 27 songs that we are going to put out, every song is different and like very different like styles. So it's also hard to find vocalists or write vocals that like have that like connectivity between the songs, I guess. Let's see. But like, yeah, there's a lot of different styles of music coming out. Like obviously like melody driving music is kind of a main thing as it has been to this point. Like we really want to write also like super heavy stuff where like, you know, heavy vocalist would fit and stuff. Like we don't have too much heavy material at this point because I think for longest time we didn't have confidence in writing heavy stuff that wouldn't like sound generic. How do you spell
generic?
Yeah. But I think that's also changing now, so we are much more confident in exploring that territory too.
I mean,
I definitely think that's like. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I definitely think that's like the one of the strengths of this group, that like every one of us is like so like kind of like fluent in like and like listens to a lot of like different kinds of music. So it's like it's not like we're like trying to do just this one thing, like just heavy, or like it's like we have like an astounding like amount of like different songs that we're planning to release, and I think it's super fun to like work on like different songs, so it's not just like one style and like that's it. But yeah,
definitely.
See, now that makes a lot of sense too, and it also speaks to the quality of music and the quality of songwriters and composers and just anything around that instrumental side that you guys have. Because if you're willing and able to work and play around with a bunch of different sounds, a bunch of different styles, to not only find out A, what fits for you guys, but B, have so many different influences to the point where you can try so many different things and create so many different sounds, it's going to come off to the point where you guys are going to be able to branch out in so many different ways while keeping what Cloudsight is going to have as its core sound in there. I mean, think about this too. When you look at the bands in rock and metal today that are just absolutely massive, that are really generating a lot of like publicity, a lot of positiveness, and a lot of people coming to them as fans, they're the ones that are always keeping their sound that they have at their core at the core, but they're always willing to experiment, try new things, and do something and evolve their sound so that it's not just one standard thing, and it's not going to sound like the same thing over and over and over and over again. I mean, take a look at huge players in this. Bring Me the Horizon. You can look at Bad Omens, especially from their first album in 2016 and what they did last year with Death of Peace of Mind. You can take a look at what the band Catch Your Breath is doing right now between the singles they've released and their most recent two songs, including the song Dial Tone. You can also take a look at what Spirit Box had done, and from a deathcore style, you can see what Lorna Shore did as well.
Yeah,
it's
a Sleep Token right now.
And Sleep Token is the perfect example going into 2023.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah,
it's all there, and the examples are there. So with you guys having the ability to try so many different things, and the wherewithal and the skill set in order to do these things as the musicians that you are, it just makes sense to the point where we could get something like from Pure Heaven, we get a melody-driven stuff from that, or we get something that has a lot more of a lighter ballad feel. We get something that's absolutely heavy, filthy. You never know what's going to happen, but you guys have the ability and the courage to go out and try and do some of this stuff, where you might get some people that come online and say, "Oh, I wish this sounded a lot like more like Pure Heaven. Oh man, they're selling out."
That's the thing. That's the thing. Obviously it's gonna happen. Like, no matter what we do, there are going to be people who are going to say that. But like, that's the one main goal, to like straight from the beginning to just release all variety of different styles, so that no one can say go back to your original style, because like, what the fucking style? What are you talking about? But like, obviously that's still going to happen. You can't avoid that, I think. But like, yeah,
you can't really avoid that, because people get emotionally attached to music, because every time they listen to music, you listen to a song, say you got into a band on their first album or two, you get so connected to that sound where when they start to evolve from it, I'm not going to say stray from it, because most bands evolve from it where the core is still there. It's, people don't really evolve with it, and they stick kind of to the roots. Again, go back to Bring Me the Rise, and there are still people that just want to hear Pray for Plagues the entire time, when, they're not going to necessarily do that. I mean, I went to go see him in 2022 on their headline run here in the United States, and they played 2 songs from Sempiternal. They played 1 song from Suicide Season. The rest was anything after that. And it's like, if you wanted to hear the heavy stuff, you got a little taste of it, but they're evolving. They're going in a different direction, and they're going to roll with it. And if you don't like the new style that they're going in, there's 2 things you can do. 1, you can still listen to the old stuff, because that ain't going anywhere. And 2, and this goes for any big band that's out there now, if you're a fan of it, like, oh, I don't like this style anymore, I don't like what they're going with. If you're not a fan of it, you don't just want to go back to the old stuff, there are plenty of emerging bands out there that are coming through that could absolutely use your support and are having the sound and the emotional impact that you are looking for. So if you guys are going to go through and try as much as possible, there's going to still be people that say, I wish you would have stuck with this sound or this sound. But you have the confidence in yourselves as songwriters and musicians with Cloudsight to say, they're going to say that. Okay.
Yeah. Also, like, one thing that's kind of like in our minds is like, it would be really cool to like build different like live sets for different like tours or festivals, like have this like catalog of just heavy as fuck songs to like heavy touring or like heavy festivals, like no radio songs or no pop songs at all, and then like having the opposite things for other places, like, which we could try to build over time, definitely, and try to see if that makes sense, because that would be cool.
That would be cool. And that doesn't go for you guys. That goes for like any band that's out there that's doing something of that caliber. Yeah. I'll use Bad Omens as the example. You could put Bad Omens at like, here in the United States, you could put them at like those major pop festivals like Coachella or Bonnaroo, and they could play most of the stuff off of Death of Peace of Mind, and they would fit in just fine. And then you could like send them to like one of the heaviest metal festivals in Germany, and they would also do just fine if they played a lot of stuff off their original album, if they played a good amount of stuff off of Finding God Before God Finds Us, and then, of course, they just went off and played Artificial Suicide and just basically went ape crazy on everybody. Yeah. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
We're going to need some copyright for that.
Copyright.
We're going to need some patents or some things.
Yeah. No, I don't know. We have to see, like, work this out. Just like see what could we do with that thing. Like, just branch out for different ways, different places.
But it's the idea that you guys have behind it, and the confidence and the willingness you guys have behind it as well to try this stuff out. Because, again, what other band is potentially trying something like that? it gives you guys a potential to try something new. And the thing is if it works, oh my God, does it work? And people are going to be constantly looking at you as the band that pioneered that. If it necessarily doesn't work, well, then you're not going to be looking back at it in 20, 30 years wishing you would have tried. Because it's like, well, we tried. We knew what happened. Did it set us back a year or two?
Exactly.
Well, we're successful now, so who really gives a shit? We
yeah,
tried.
yeah. Especially at this early stage, this makes it quite easy to experiment different styles of things, because we could say that because we haven't done this before, we have nothing to lose at this point. So
no one's expecting anything.
Yeah, expectations. There are no. So yeah, we can just try whatever we want. So it makes this stuff way more cooler.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the freedom to branch out like anywhere we want to at this point is like, yeah, it's great. And as we're doing this like independent, there's not like any deadlines or anything at this point. But obviously, like we want to like push out stuff as soon as possible. But like, yeah, just like roll with it at our own pace at this point and like see what works and try things out. And
trying to be clever.
Trying
to be clever. Like there's so much history in rock already that you can kind of study and like not make some same mistakes that previous bands have done in whatever. And I think like branching out from the way start is a good thing for like mental health also, like to like in the long term. So yeah, because we really want to do everything we can honestly, but like still I think we have in these 5 years somehow like build this sound that is Cloudsight still, and it definitely comes down like how we compose things and write things. And like I think we are like all living in the same musical realm, even though we kind of go in different directions there and there, but like that's also why we can make this work so good.
Yeah, and the influence we take, it kind of comes from the same sources. We have the same interests mostly, so yeah, we can have this united sound when there's 4 different composers of us, but we can still have the all aligned that we're doing. So yeah,
because you have probably heard the saying that you can't have too many chefs in the kitchen, and we definitely do, but I think that we are in the same realm, so we can make it work.
I mean, you definitely can't have too many cooks in the kitchen, too many chefs in the kitchen, but you guys might be working in a big enough kitchen easily where 4 of you guys together working on this stuff absolutely works. It all depends upon how you guys are working together, how you guys collaborate with each other, what the chemistry is like between all 4 of you in order to maximize on that. And with the fact that you're independent, it does give you the freedom and the capability to just absolutely create at any moment that you want, do what you want, and you're not tied down to certain deadlines except for your own. You're not tied down to certain contractual obligations from a label. You're not tied down to you have to have this out and you have to have it in a certain style because the money we need to make on it depends on that, and we have to make sure that we are pleasing this certain group of people instead of actually making the music that we want to make. It all rolls into that as well. And again, what you just said about thinking about it, what you just said around already, we can take a look at the history of rock and metal. We can take a look at a lot of the mistakes that these other bands have made, and we can learn from them. Not a lot of bands end up learning from those mistakes, and a lot of bands make the same mistakes as well. It's the quote of, if we don't study history, we're damned to repeat it. Because if you don't study it, you don't understand the reasoning behind why things happen, why bands got put in the situations they got put in based on maybe they made a bad business deal. Maybe they signed a record deal that was absolutely predatory, looking at the whole Day to Remember Victory Records saga back in 2013. I mean, just looking at all, like there's so many things that you can study and look at. And of course, new problems are going to arise, but you can have those preventable failures kept back if you study that history and you understand what could go wrong, what has gone wrong, how to prevent that. Of course, there's always going to be things that go wrong. There's nothing's going to go perfect. But if you have the ability to prevent certain things from going wrong that other people experienced in the past, you have a much better chance of success in the future.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly true. Yeah, we should learn from many things, and of course, many things will go wrong. We can't like prevent that thing, like even if it's just like mentality things or something, and you can't be prepared for, and like will surprise you. And but like with the label thing, like of course it's fucking hard to do this independently when you have no experience and like just trying to be professional when you're really not, and just trying to like learn to be. And like of course there's so many things that label could help, and like who knows where we might end up in the future, but like right now the plan is to just stay independent and just try to learn and just find the right people to like help you on the way, and like build this as a career also, like in a long-term vision. So yeah, in that like label just, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense in 2023, I think. If you have like, if you are like, if you're not lazy, I think. So
yeah, of course it requires way more hard work, but I think it pays out later when you play your cards correctly.
Yeah.
Lasse, can you remember those bands like years back who inspired us to start like independently? I think While She Sleeps was one of those bands who went independent.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're like distributing their music through some labels, but like I think they're pretty independent.
No,
they're producing everything.
They used to be under a rising empire, if I'm correct, but then when they came out with Sleep Society in 2021, they did it fully independently. And if I do remember this correctly, I remember them talking about this. They said their first week of album sales, they did them all independently, but because they did them independently, they could not actually, like the way it was done, they couldn't actually chart on like, you know, the Billboard. If they would have been able to chart, their first week album sales would have put them number 4 that week.
Yeah. And also I heard like some Cane Hill interview, like they were independent for a few years. They're not anymore. They're like, at least in America, I guess, like if you don't have the team, you know, like you're trying to book some shows, they just won't book you on the tours if you don't have that like certain connect like people with you. So I don't know how is that gonna work here, like in our case, but like I think that's a problem, at least in America. I might talk like wrong things here, but that's what I heard in that Cane Hill interview.
I can kind of go into that a little bit more, and the answer is yes and no. It's the same way. I can agree with you on that because there's a lot of times with different tour packages with bands going out on the road, there's a lot of different business connections between the promoters and the labels. And there's a lot of times where the labels, they only want the bands that they have on their roster under, you know, on the same tour, maybe given what, like who the promoter of the show is. If it's, you know, if it's a certain promoter, maybe they only want bands that are on that label. If it's from like the biggest radio station for rock metal, Sirius XM Octane, they really don't care. They're going to go out and just get the best ones out there and just put something together. It all depends upon a bunch of different business ideas. Where I'm going to say that also necessarily isn't the case is not necessarily based on, you know, the label that you have, who you're signed under, who your promoter is, who your booking agent. It all depends upon the connections. Yes, maybe who your booking agent is, who, if you have if you're someone managing the band, who that person is, and the connections you make along the way as well. Because the more connections you make, the more positive relationships you have with other people in the music industry as an independent artist, the better off you are in terms of have a chance to play with not only some other bands that are also independent that are really doing well, but other bands that potentially are a lot larger, that are signed to larger labels, that have larger contracts, but still are going to be more than willing to bring you on with them, maybe for just a one-off show, maybe for a tour, maybe for a festival. And the two bands I can think of that do that well, one band I can think of that does that well in the United States is a band called Kingdom Collapse. I've seen them. They've gone out on the road with Nothing More. They've filled in for shows for 3 Days Grace on the request of the band and their management team. So it's like they got the connections there. But also when it comes to being independent, it allows you that creative freedom to do whatever you want and allows you to try new things where, you know, a label might be pushing back on you like, we want to promote it this way because this is what is better, but you connect with your audience a lot more and you might know it's a different way. And if you want to look for a band that has done that well, I literally recorded a podcast with him right before you guys came on here. It's with a guy named Tom Kiley from the band Patient 67 out of Australia. I'm almost certain if any band, if any label saw them and like had signed them before they had really started, they'd look at their social media content and say, no, you're posting too many memes. You're posting way too much. You're not posting enough about the music. They're more successful with them doing what they want to do, posting all their fun stuff, creating that community, and having gratitude at the forefront of it, than they would be if a label or a social media coordinator or some promoter kind of took over. So when it comes to being independent and being on a label, of course there's positive and negatives to each. And what you have to try and do is, as a band, whichever one you pick, you have to try and make sure that the positives that are coming out there can outweigh the negatives, and you still also have your own creative freedom at the same time.
Yeah. Sounds fair. Sounds fair. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's so many unknown things still in our way that we just can't know until those problems arises, and then we just have to like see if we can make them work independently and stuff like that. But like, we'll try as long as we can and as long as it makes sense, and like, because we can release music the way we want, we can already like put out music that in that quality. Of course it takes much work and our own money, but like let's see.
We'll see. And the other thing too with you guys is, again, as an independent artist, you can create those connections with other independent artists, and you can work alongside them and talk with them and see, where they went wrong on some certain things, where they went right on certain things, see why they went right, see why they went wrong, so you can make the correct moves for yourselves and potentially prevent those mistakes. On top of that as well, you can create great friends, and you can, bounce advice off each other back and forth, bounce ideas off of each other to see all of a sudden, what could help out you guys grow your band, what could help out them grow their band, what are they doing right that we're not doing, what are we doing right that they're not doing, and just create this whole entire collective of all of a sudden, independent bands being the more major force, especially post-pandemic. Once the pandemic hit, it seemed like being independent was maybe a little bit of a better way to go about it, just based on you had the freedom and the creativity than if you were assigned under a more restrictive label contract. I do know bands that are under more label contracts where they have like total creative freedom. They can do whatever they want. And it's like the label is just there to help distribute it, to help promote it and everything. Yeah. No, like that works, but it all depends upon what everyone agrees to, where the fine print is. There's a lot that goes into it. So always reaching out and asking for help, especially in your position, from other artists that you connect with that have gone through similar things that you are going through, could only really help you in that matter.
Definitely. Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah. But like, I think the biggest problems that comes down to performing things live, how's that world going to actually go? Because I think we are pretty confident in releasing music and producing videos ourselves, without any third party company. Obviously we need a good guy mix our stuff, master all absolute team, mixing and mastering. That's true.
Oh, absolutely. And when it comes to the live sighting as well, again, how many bands have toured live? How many bands have been successful? You're going to have to learn things on your own as well. You have to go through those trials and tribulations. You have to go through those pitfalls kind of stuff. You can see the successes.
Right. Yeah.
But you're not going to be able to see those successes and, go through all those things in order to become a successful band in that right, if you're not doing them. And I totally understand. It's like you guys have the ability to release all the music, and one of the major pitfalls and major roadblocks you have is, if you're going out performing live, it's what happens with the vocalist. Do you guys get one? What's going on there? There's many different ideas you guys can play around with, but the biggest thing is you have the creativity and you have the ability to be creative in order to figure out a solution to that works for you guys and works for the whole entire idea of Cloudsight?
Yeah, and one step at a time. Like, as much as all of us wants to play live, like we're not in like concrete rush with that. And like, look at like bands like Darko US, like they haven't played a single show yet, and they're like selling out all the merch every time they put out those stuff. Like they're probably making some money just for themselves, and like prepare for that like actual like explosion what they could do when they start playing live.
That's true. I totally forgot about Darko US in that matter.
Yeah. So like, I think the best way could be like just to try to build the fan base and some hype, and like see things like at like one merch drop at a time, like how well that goes, like before like trying to shoot ourselves in the future, like going to perform live too early when there's no like actual need to yet.
Oh, I understand that. I mean, you guys got the start too with Pure Heaven, with of course State of the Scene posting about it, and then other people posting about it, because of course State of the Scene posts about it, people are going to see it, people are going to pick up on it, and people are going to be more interested in it. I saw some other publications pick up on it and like start retweeting the song, and of course because of State of the Scene tweeting about it, that's how I found out about you guys, and in a sense that's why we're here today.
Exactly. Yeah, we definitely didn't like, we weren't expecting like how well this would go. Like in Spotify in 2 weeks it has gone like what, 35,000?
Yeah, 35K.
Yeah,
that's just insane.
Fucking insane.
Yeah,
I'm actually gonna look this up right now as we're talking, because I want to make sure we get the actual like at this moment. Even though by the time this podcast come out, Pure Heaven will definitely have much more plays behind it, but it has 35,928 streams.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that wasn't something that we were even like hoping in the least. Like that's insane.
And then like monthly listener count as well at the time of recording this is 19,213.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's like I see bands that put out like full releases and whatnot, and all of a sudden their listener count just like goes up just a little bit. And you guys put out this, you guys get the connection with State of the Scene for them to post about this, and it completely picks up, and you guys are able to run with it and work with it. I mean, it's when it comes to your first release, you guys got basically like a springboard to start out with. Like you got a nice big jump to start out with, and kind of looking at the Darko US thing, it's, you know, they haven't played a show, but whenever they put out merch, they sell it out. Whenever they put out music, people go nuts over it. So you guys can take a look at that model and see if you guys want to go around that, especially with the capability of the songwriters. How do we work alongside that? And how do we make sure that when we got this jump from State of the Scene posting about it and everyone else picking up on it, what do we do now to make sure that this continues on, that we don't lose out on this, you know, potential huge momentum swing?
Yeah, I don't think we wanna like stress out the momentum thing. Like the whole like plan has been like, we have like 27 songs, something like that, like kind of like 3 albums in a way, and like because 5 years writing without having the ability to finish them until now. But like, the plan has been just release everything and then see where we are at. Like after just one song, we're already at this point. But like we don't want to stress the momentum like before that. Just like trying to build a quality, consistent discography till that point, and then see where we're actually at. Then we can maybe like stress momentum a bit more after we go to the next adventures after those. But like, yeah.
I think Lassi has a really good point here, because rather than jumping from 0 point to somewhere huge stages, we would really rather focus on creating a cool portfolio that we can really be proud of like years after this. So we just want to release quality stuff and not to take too much stress of this. Like it's for every one of us. This is like first time releasing out. I mean, Lev, you have released some stuff before, but we haven't, and it's really strange feeling, and we really want to take this calmly and go like step by step. So
yeah, we don't really have any like previous bands to like project this into like compared to. So yeah, one step at a time. If the next song doesn't go this well, I don't care. It's good song, and like it will build just build a portfolio, build these albums or whatever, and see where we are after those.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense too, because you just want to make sure that when you're continuing to release music, it's not like you're going to have each release just, have this massive leap like what Pure Heaven ended up bringing you. But you just want to have it stay consistent and also release that portfolio music so more people get to know the full idea of Cloudsight, get to know the full sound of it, but also not only that taking the audience that you gain from this, keeping them into Cloudsight, keeping them intrigued into that. With your sound, I mean, I'm not talking about complete. Okay, now we gotta we talked about this. You're not gonna write 7 different versions of Pure Heaven to try and get people to stay. You're gonna write what you guys want to write, and you're gonna let the integrity of the music stand out for itself.
Exactly, and just mentioned the whole people to get the sound of Cloudsight. Like I think it's gonna take a few releases, maybe over 10. Before people actually have the idea. I have no I can't know, but every song is different, really different, and I think we have the idea of that at this point. That's pretty clear what Cloudsight is, but
yeah. We saw some random guy doing a Reddit post about us, and there was written that they kind of figure out the FFO. I mean, the 4 fans of. And I could definitely say that after a few releases, it will be way more harder to do.
Yeah,
that's what makes it more cool.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the 4 fans of from that Reddit post were? Just so that
they couldn't.
Yeah.
Have any? I mean, after different sources during this 2 weeks, it's funny that I think we've been trying to compared to I don't know, from caskets to animals as leaders or something.
Even some polyphia, and it's just crazy. Yeah. We've even tried to define ourselves. What genre are we? What genre do we represent? It kind of has become a meme among us, because we cannot even do it by ourselves. But definitely we will have to at some point, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Surely. But yeah.
I think the biggest inspiration kind of comes from soundtrack structure.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to write 2 parts, 2 same parts in the song. Even if it's similar, it has to be some layers really different. In Pure Heaven, it has 2 choruses. But instrumentally, it's totally different. It's different rhythm patterns, different bass lines and riffs. Everything totally different.
The vocal melodies are the same, but the instrumentation there's different bass lines, and as Lassi said, different rhythmic patterns. There are some even some those ambient melodic elements hidden along the song. But maybe you possibly could not recognize those because they're in completely different contexts. So need to listen to it carefully if you want to find out those.
But soundtrack structure is definitely one thing. I think the whole Cloudsight thing kind of started when me and Vaina watched few episodes of Hans Zimmer's masterclass. And then we just pick guitars and just try to compose a few melodies.
And we were actually watching. We were watching that one movie. Remember that? And after that, we picked up a guitar and we actually created our first melody. But that one will be released. I don't know when it will be.
Yeah.
It's in one of those. Yeah, it's in one of those 27 songs. It definitely will take time before it comes out, but yeah, we were so heavily inspired.
Iconic melody because that started the whole thing.
Maybe on the 10th anniversary day of Cloudsight or something.
Yeah,
hopefully before.
Yeah. If it's the 10th anniversary day of Cloudsight, you're going to release that. That's coming up in a couple of years.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. But even like just taking a look at Pure Heaven too, because there's so much structure behind it as well, and it does speak to just what you said. You're thinking about soundtrack in a way where it has this much more grand feel, this much more complex feel to it. Because if you listen to as they call it, butt rock, where it's just nothing but rock. I mean, a lot of those sounds, a lot of those instrumentals, and a lot of the flow and the construction is very similar from one spot to the next. Sure, it has a good sound to it at times, but there's a lot of times you listen to an album, it's like, okay, this song and song 1 and song 3 on the same album are very, very similar to the point where it's like you could interchange them in and out. What you guys did with Pure Heaven, I mean, I can see where someone did for fans of Caskets, especially when it came to the chorus and just kind of how the melody was put, especially when you had Victor's vocals on the top of it, how everything flowed through. I'm like, oh yeah, I can easily see a Caskets or Holding Absence influence, something like that. Then you got to the breakdown. I'm like, yeah, now this is going in a completely different direction. But what you had with Pure Heaven was something where you had so much, so much depth to each part. Kind of like you were talking about that soundtrack thing again, Hans Zimmer Masterclass, where the whole song flowed congruently throughout. The song come from one spot to the next. It didn't feel like anything was out of place. And it was kept simple enough in terms of pattern from one spot to the next where the casual listener or the one that isn't as in-depth that could easily understand the flow of the song and get into it. But someone who has a much more trained ear and someone who is as in-depth with, writing music composition, musical stylings as you guys are, can go in there and really take a look at it and appreciate every little aspect that you put into there, from whatever the instrumentals were, from, just what was being fully presented up front to what was even kept further in the back for that depth and really get a full experience of what was to come.
I appreciate that a lot, honestly. Yeah, thank you. And we have definitely songs that it's intentionally made to not make sense in that way. As someone who's kind of grew up listening to that 2010s repertoire music, I love that. I love stuff like Woe Is Me used to do and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, in 2014, 15, after Bring Me the Horizon did their thing, everyone just was oh, now we're matured as a songwriter. Wow, you learned pop structure. That's amazing. But I hate that. I fucking hate that. That was the kind of thing in 2017 when we started this band, with Vaino. We were so tired of hearing all that radio rock stuff from bands that used to be in our mind creative before, and
one of the biggest reasons that we just simply started creating music is that we just wanted to hear something that we as a fans of the genre would want to hear, and not to include those cliches, what bands really did those times, way back years ago. Of course, now the genre and the scene, they have evolved a lot, and I'm really happy to see where it's going at this point. Northlane is doing so cool stuff, one of my favorite bands, and there are also Silent Planet, those crazy new stuff's coming, and they're kind of showing the way to the scene and genre where everybody is following.
Yeah, and of course, Bring Me the Horizon has shown that genres don't matter anymore, which is good.
Yeah, Bring the Horizon showed that. Bad Omens has showed that too, especially in more of a a younger sense than compared to Bring the Horizon, just because Bad Omens hasn't been around as long. But yeah, when you look at especially more of that heavier scene, especially the metalcore style of things, yeah, after Bring Me the Horizon released Sempiternal, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Sempiternal. I think it's a fantastic album. Yeah. But then after that, it was everyone tried to do what Bring Me the Horizon did. and it just completely kind of watered down the scene. And now you take a look at it now. I mean, Lovely Broth, Northlane, Silent Planet. Look at what Ice Nine Kills did with all the horror tropes. I'm a big Falling in Reverse fan, and everything that they've been doing lately is like they're trying to do something, like Ryan Rex trying to do something completely different. Going back to Silent Planet, the last two tours that they've done, they went out with this band called Avoid, and Avoid is one of the funniest bands I've ever seen in my entire life. They just bring fun back to heavy music. They're just ridiculous people, but
Good.
it's the creativity that people are now getting back into, and that's what breathes life into the music scene. If you're constantly writing like the same stuff over and over, and every band, if they were creative at one point, now is everyone's kind of writing, no, we're going to use pop structure now. You look at what it was like in 2016, 2017, even 2018, everything was the same. Everything was just very similar. And then even going like 2018, 2019, 2020, it kind of got to be the same again, but a little bit of a different light because everyone wanted to follow what Architects did with Doomsday. And
Exactly.
now it's like, now everyone's starting to get creative again. And it might honestly be a catalyst of, I'm going to go back to Bring Me the Horizon, because when they came out with that post-human survival horror EP, that was just like, okay, there's a song. It's heavy. Wait. This is like, Can You Feel My Heart? Wait, Linkin Park? Wait, Baby Metal on a track?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
the fuck
exactly.
is going on here?
And I guess it's like, from what I kind of seen and heard, like their next like thing is going to be back to the post-hardcore roots very much, which I think is also, it has the potential to have some mainstream momentum, as I've heard like Demi Lovato is writing a post-hardcore album. I've heard that, I don't know. And like the latest, like, do you know Willow, the Will Smith's daughter?
Yeah.
Like her latest album is really good, like post-hardcore thing. So like it's cool to see what, if that will catch some serious momentum in mainstream, who knows? So like what will that do to like metal scene?
I think if it does, it'll really speak more to the popular music scene, especially with the creativity that's going on, especially in the heavier side of things right now with a lot of bands that are coming out with music. And kind of bringing it back to you guys with Cloudsight, it's, you guys have that mindset around trying different things. You have that mindset around creativity, but with that mindset as well, you guys know exactly, with all the music that you've been writing, especially because you have like 3 albums worth of material, you know who you guys are at your core, and it depends upon exposing that to the rest of the musical world for them to get a taste of it. With Pure Heaven, we were able to get a small glimpse of it with, between the verse and the chorus and that bridge and breakdown, and there's so much depth there when it comes to an instrumental side of things, where you're not going to be really guessing on what can they do. The real guess is going to be, all right, what do they actually can't do? Because that list is so much smaller than what they can do.
I hope so.
I hope so.
We have a long way to go. We do have a long way to go.
Yeah. Well said, we do have a long way to go. One more question before we go our separate ways when it comes to the rest of 2023. Pure Heaven is out for everyone to listen to. Again, it does feature Victor Borba and Roy Rodriguez from Dayseeker. Outside of that, because we still have like 11 months to go through the year, we're only 1 month through this thing. What does the future look like for Cloudsight, so that everyone who got into Pure Heaven that is like, this is awesome, what can they expect the rest of the year?
Good music. Lots of good music. Stick around if you know us. I mean, the fact that we got this out already like marks a lot of things that we've learned in the process. So every next release and finishing them will be easier, I hope, and like much faster. So the rest of 23, we're trying to finish as much as possible, at least in the project where Pure Heaven is in. That's going to be all futures. But like also, if we can like find that vocalist that we kind of like have the potential one, maybe, then it will make also our work much faster for those other projects. Because like, as I said, we have 3 albums, and like the plan is not to release one at a time, but like maybe have just a mixture of songs from each one, if we can fix.
So that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot to still come from you guys. There's a lot to still happen. But I think the best part about it too is when we look at it, there is so many different avenues. There's so many different directions you guys can go, and it all depends upon how the rest of the year plays out for you guys. But you have the musical composition, you have the musical prowess to still release music at the same time for people to really get into. And we don't know exactly what to expect. All I know is that it's going to be conceptually brilliant, that technically from the songwriting standpoint, it's going to be very both simple to get into and dense for the very serious music theorist, music listener to get into, to dissect and really enjoy every aspect of it. And, you guys had that springboard to start out with, Pure Heaven with State of the Scene, really also getting behind it as well. And the Roy Rodriguez feature also, I'm going to say, helped especially with the power and the prominence that Dayseeker has gained in the scene as well, for people to discover your sound and also see how one of their favorite vocalists in Rory mixes in with that. There's a lot of positivity that is around Cloudsight right now, and people should definitely follow along because you guys have the ability to continue that positivity throughout the rest of the year and well beyond that into your career.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, exactly.
And I think what were you gonna say? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Just that. This is definitely going to be a busy year for us, but also full of accomplishments. I guess. Yeah, it's gonna be busy, but hopefully we'll be able to get consistently stuff and please stay tuned and follow us.
Exactly.
I'll say stay tuned and follow them and continue to just be a part of this thing. And you never know what to expect from these guys in 2023. All you know what to do is expect good things. So at that point, I have to say, as we bring this podcast to its conclusion, one thing I always like to do at the end of these episodes is give my guest, which is the gentleman of Cloudsight here, you guys, a chance to say whatever you want to say, plug whatever you want to plug, promote whatever you want to promote at the end of the episode. So guys, the floor is yours.
Pure Heaven, it's out. Check it out. Our debut single. It's awesome. You're gonna love it for sure. I don't know. Stick around.
Stay tuned. Lots of exciting stuff coming out in the near future. So
we're trying to build something that hasn't been done yet. I don't know. We're trying to succeed in that. So if that's something someone's looking for, stick around.
Regardless, if you like Pure Heaven or not, just stick. I'll say if you like Pure Heaven, I mean, if any capacity, stick around because there's gonna be more good stuff coming from these guys.
Definitely.
Perfect. Well, time for me to end this podcast with three things. First things first, like I said, you're going to want to stick around with Cloudsight, and you're not going to want to miss out on them through the rest of 2023 because you don't know what to expect, but you know it's going to be high-quality music. It's going to be something that's going to be simple for you to get into, but it's going to be dense enough to the point where you can just go in and find so many different nuances in this music based on these guys' songwriting ability and their composition aspects. So the best way to do that in order to make sure you're sticking around with all this stuff is to follow them on all their social media platforms. Watch the music video for Pure Heaven and follow them along there and subscribe to that stuff. And also make sure you're following along with them on your favorite streaming platforms, Spotify, Music, whatever it might be. Now, the easiest way to do that is to go, second easiest way to do that, I should say, is searching all this stuff up yourself and going and liking, sharing, subscribing, buying some merch, all that stuff on every single aspect of it. But the easiest way to go and follow along with them is going to the description of this podcast where it says find Cloudsight online, because all the labels for you can find them online are going to be there. All the associated links are going to be there as well. All you have to do is click on the link. It'll take you right there. You have to click like, click share, click subscribe, click buy, click stream, whatever it might be. I'm doing all the hard work for you. All you got to do is click. That's basically it. So go and do that right at the end of this episode. Now it's time for number 2. Guys, whenever I have guests in the podcast that I enjoy having the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise as a way to say 2 things. 1, thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show. And secondly, as a way to say, I want to support you guys in any way that I can continue to go forward. This is a promise I make to bands I enjoy having the podcast, which has happened every single podcast I've ever done. You guys are continuing that trend. So the promise is when, because that means this is going to happen. We just don't have a date or time yet. When I get to see you guys perform live for the first time. My promise to you guys is this. First round is on me.
Okay.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. I can't wait for that moment. I can't wait for that moment.
It'll happen. I don't know when, I don't know where, but it's gonna happen. So
I
hold me to
deserve
that.
it. Yeah.
And now number 3, as we bring it to this podcast to its conclusion, I cannot in all good conscience say goodbye to end this out because goodbye is way too final, and I don't want this to be the last time that I ever talk to you guys. I have to make good on that promise, and I would love to have you guys back on the podcast again in the future to kind of see how this whole entire thing continues to play out. I'm not going to say how it plays out fully because there is so much more to your music career after this first release. There's so much more yet to be seen. There's so much more yet to be heard, and there's so many more times we got to talk about this stuff because this was awesome. So I cannot in all good conscience end this by saying goodbye. So guys, I'll see you later.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Let's make round 2. Let's make round 2 when we can.
Well, folks, that's my interview with Levi, Emil, Lassi, and Vaino from the band Cloudsight out of Finland. And now it's time for me to give you my final thought on the episode. So, after talking with these guys, I had to tell them this. We talked about many different concepts around here that revolved around their music, but also to bring in a lot of other bands that we talk about, like Bring Me the Horizon, with their ability to just go off and just do whatever the heck they want with their music. Bad Omens in the same idea. While She Sleeps as the independent artist and what they're doing. Just a bunch of different things around different bands. And when it came to the sound for Cloudsight and being able to maximize on their vision and maximize on their ability, everything I'm thinking about was this really relates to Cloudsight in terms of the music that they've created, the music that they have yet to release, and the fact that, they have the ability to do whatever they want, and they have the chemistry to do whatever they want and continue to go from one spot to the next without really any issues. I mean, this is going to be a band where the core of their sound is going to be based in what they like, but they have the ability to try many different things, and that willingness to try so many different things is going to be what inevitably sets this band up for an incredible amount of success. Will they find that perfect vocalist? Who knows? Will they go the route of, just consistently bringing in featured vocalists? It might work for a while, but it might not work. You never know. This band is going to be one that you're going to be interested in watching based on what they do as independent artists, but also from a songwriting perspective, they created Pure Heaven from a style where you listen to it as a casual listener, and it is simple and catchy enough to the point where you can listen to it and get into it. But if you're a music theorist, if you love to go deep in the music, it has such more, depth and composition behind it to the point where you're not going to want to miss out on any of it. Like, there's so much to go in there and you're not going to want to miss it. So Cloudsight definitely has a long way to go in this industry, and it's going to be something interesting to watch, especially the composition they put together. And honestly, the fact that they are more than willing to experiment and adapt with their style. You see what happens when bands are willing to evolve with their style and keep at the core. Those are the bands that become the biggest and the most important in the scene going forward. Bring Me the Horizon, Bad Omens, Spirit Box, Lorna Shore. I'm going to throw Catch Your Breath in there as well for 2023 because that's the one I'm looking at very closely for something like this from our conversation with them back in January. And so many more. So be sure to keep in touch with Cloudsight. How do you keep in touch with Cloudsight? Make sure you know everything that's going on with them. Follow them on all their social media accounts. Make sure you're streaming their music. Make sure you're subscribed to them on your favorite social streaming platform and on YouTube as well. So go to the links in the description of the podcast where it says Find Cloudsight Online. Everything is there for you. Also, make sure you're following along with the Corporate Rush Podcast online as well, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff, where you can get in the know about all the other bands we have coming up on the podcast, connect with us, talk to us about music. We do Instagram live streams every single Wednesday night for you guys to check out, and make sure you're subscribed to the podcast on YouTube or on Spotify Podcasts, iHeart, or wherever else you might find it. A thank you to you for subscribing to the podcast as well, because this is fantastic. This is what we love to do. So please, and thank you. Also want to thank Phoenix Fitness for sponsoring this podcast. Remember, 20% off using the code CPP20 at fnxhit.com. Links in the description of the podcast. Thank you guys from Cloudsight. This is not going to be your only time on the podcast. We're going to do this many more times in the future. So on that note, that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you for watching, listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of the big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah.